I imagine you had a late night last night. What is on the agenda for today? Are you going to actually vote again today when the House convenes at noon?
I think we should vote today again. Right now, I think obviously we're going to go through conversations and negotiations, try to see if there is a pathway for Kevin to still get to 218. Now, look, I think what we need to do is have those serious conversations. What we should not have done, and I'm glad we stopped, was have a vote-a-rama on the floor. I didn't think that was in the best interest of the Republican conference and, frankly, for the House overall. So there were conversations last night by some members. There'll be conversations today to see if their pathway still exists. I think the key thing for everybody to understand is you can get into the semantics about rules and committee assignments, but what this is about is having a deliberative conversation about what leadership is going to be like in the nation's capital, in the House of Representatives. For far too long in this town, too many things have been by acclamation. And that's actually not worked for the American people. So we need to be fighting for, budgetary restraints, reforms, securing our border, all the things that the American people want to see. But the root of that starts in how you actually set up leadership and rules in the House. And having a deliberative process over that is actually a good thing for the Republic.
Yeah, we know there's no rules yet because there's no House Speaker. If you vote today, are you voting for McCarthy or for someone else?
That remains to be seen. I mean, a lot of this is going to be determined over the next couple of hours. Look, what I want to see...
quickly, you could potentially switch your vote back to Kevin McCarthy?
What I'm going to do right now is vote for who I think is in the best interest of the conference. My vote yesterday was basically to break a deadlock because we were deadlocked and we were not getting anywhere. Right now, he doesn't have a pathway to get there. Is that reemerges? Yeah, I can be there. That's fine. But what is necessary now is that Republicans come together and find a way to elect a speaker. We're going to do that.
Okay, so you're saying you would vote for McCarthy again if it looked like he had a path forward. Do you think he has a strategy right now?
No, I'm not clear about that at this time.
Was any ground made last night in the negotiations that happened after you adjourned?
It's very little. But I think what you're going to see this morning, or maybe what you won't see this morning, is there's going to be probably more conversations around that, and then we'll see how we get there.
Do you think we're at a point yet where McCarthy should withdraw his name from the race?
That's really a question for Kevin. I can't make that kind of decision for him. I don't think so, to be frank with you. I think that there's still some ways to go here. I mean, look, it's day 2. Obviously, nobody's seen this in 100 years. But we're going to go through this process. We're going to get the job done, and then we're going to be focused on the things that American voters sent us here to do.
Did McCarthy reach out to you after you switched your vote to Jim Jordan?
I have not talked to him yet.
Okay. The question, of course, if it's not Kevin McCarthy, who could it be? Is there a viable alternative that's being discussed behind the scenes?
I'm not going to reveal names. There are members who are talking about different alternatives, people who might be able to find a pathway to get to 218. And then from there, we'll have those discussions between members one-on-one, between groups of members, caucuses, and see how that shakes out.
Without revealing names, would it be someone who is inside the House of Representatives or outside?
I don't think there's going to be anybody from outside the House.
Are you still seeing attempts behind the scenes to grow the numbers who are voting against Kevin McCarthy? Clearly, you were the only one who changed your vote yesterday. Do you expect more Republicans could change their votes today?
It's very possible. And I think that there are members who are having, they're having concerns right now. There are obviously people back home who are weighing in on what they feel, who they feel should be the next Speaker of the House. So it's possible. Like right now, that's open to interpretation. But I think the key thing is going back to, Leader McCarthy, is there a pathway for him to get there? Yes. Can that be worked out over the next couple of hours? Yes.
Is it likely?
Not sure yet.
Okay. Don Bacon of Nebraska said yesterday, referring to the 19, now 20, who are voting against Kevin McCarthy, referring to them as the Taliban 19. What's your response to that?
I think it's outrageous, and I like Don Bacon, but that kind of language is ridiculous. We're going through a legislative process, actually a democratic process, where votes have to be earned, not just given. And so for that kind of language to be used, I think is reprehensible. And I like Don Bacon. But what we have to do is be careful doing stuff like that. This is a negotiation, like any negotiation. And so to refer to people on the other side of a negotiation as to be essentially aligned with some of the worst terrorists the world has ever seen, I think is outrageous.
My last question for you. You talked about the importance of getting through this vote so you can actually get legislation passed, start to do things like that. What does yesterday say about what it looks like when Republicans are in charge?
It means that we actually take this stuff seriously. We're not just going to be rolled because party leadership says so. It means there is going to be a deliberative process. It means there's going to be a lot of discussion. That's what the House of Representatives is. For far too long in this town, everything has just been go along to get along. And I think those days are long over in Washington, D.C.
Well, some would say it looks like chaos.
Oh, chaos is okay sometimes. Listen, there's nothing wrong with disagreements. Nothing wrong with disagreement. We are in our families at home, we have disagreements. So we're not going to have disagreements here in the nation's capital? I think, the veneer, the show of politics has sometimes gotten people off of what this thing really is. There's always give and take here. There's always negotiations. There seems to always be some cliff or some leverage points happening here. So because there's disagreements right now does not mean that the place doesn't function. As a matter of fact, I think that the fact that there are disagreements and still conversations show that it can still function and work as it was intended to work.
Okay, we'll see if they get to a breakthrough today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll wait to see how you vote today, since you said you could switch your vote back. Thank you for joining us this
Anytime.
morning.